Hello again, Blood and Bobby here, back with Stephen and Gaby. We're doing movie reviews this evening, and we're going to be talking about a movie that I know I've certainly been wanting to talk about after the three of us saw it in IMAX. It's honestly one of the most emotional that I know, especially me and Gabby have gotten over a movie in a long
Oh
time.
my
The
gosh.
Oscar
Yeah.
nominated 1917, the one shot World War One movie directed by Sam Mendes.
Oh my gosh. I did not know what to expect with that. E-
What are you
That
doing,
was that was
Stephen?
perfect. That was perfect.
Oh,
Making it
I
hard.
see. Yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh.
I don't know, where do we even start? Like, should we start with like the premise of the movie? Like, Steven, I think you would do the best job like describing
Yeah. Yeah. This
what's it about?
movie incomplete just grabbed me by surprise. So.
It's a very simple premise. There is a battalion of British people who are trying to fall into a German retreat, what they think is a German retreat,
Mm-hmm.
but the Germans have a trap set up, and if the, uh, if they go with their attack plan, all of them will die because they have an entire row of artillery out there. So
Mm-hmm.
all that's left is to sneak two messengers into enemy lines and just make sure they get this message to call off the attack. And in the case of our protagonist, one of them is a brother of someone who is in the front line, and the
Mm-hmm.
other is his buddy. And
Right.
so, just their 1 day journey, all captured two, with the exception of one shot cut to nighttime, is masked to look like it's shot all in one shot. And
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much the premise.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's the thing for me is that yeah, in terms of a premise, it's like, it's very um I don't want to say standard, but it's kind of not exactly like, the biggest of surprises. But in terms of like what stuck out to me was the execution in terms of how they were able to pull off this one shot style. As you said, Stephen, it's the kind of thing where they make it look like most of the movie was shot all in one take, and it's really convincing. I thought that the cinematography aspect, Roger Deakins, and thank God won the Oscar for best cinematography for this movie, right?
What was it? I mean, he won for Blade Runner,
Yeah, he
definitely.
did. Although I think he also won for this movie.
We check right there. There's another movie. Oh yeah, he did best cinematography.
Yeah. So
Mm,
yeah, it was yeah, it's really yeah, it's actually surprisingly a really engaging movie. I mean, wait, who should go first in terms of talking about our uh initial thoughts on this movie?
Love it. 10 out of 10. It's great. It's one of those movies where like you can tell it is appealing to a certain crowd of awards people, but it's one that's really well done. It's never boring. Even the whole idea of the one shot take. Even with some people complaining about it, it works in my opinion, just because
Mm-hmm.
of how intricately storyboarded it is, and just how committed this crew was, right down to the actors. I mean, they pretty much have gone through the whole Tom Cruise running lineup with this whole movie. It,
Yeah, Gabby, what did you think?
Um, I was I was pleasantly surprised. I am not one to really particularly find any interest in war movies, particularly if they are not aiming to have any sense of sarcasm or cynicism and stuff like that. Like uh,
Full Metal
uh
Jacket?
like Full Metal Jacket or
Mm-hmm.
maybe Glorious Bastards. But this just I was legitimately invested in this film, and it never kind of felt sort of pushing the you can't understand, the struggle kind of thing, which is like okay, fine. But this movie just was just able to put you in a position where you could really appreciate what was going on, and and you were legitimately invested to the story, where you, in a sense, were feeling like you were going through it yourself, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that's really hard to. Um, as far as the editing goes, I could rarely even notice any cuts myself, so I'm gonna say it was pretty dang good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's really
Um,
convincing. Yeah,
yeah,
so I was saying, I mean, what could I say? I was also very pleasantly surprised about this movie because like yeah, for me when it comes to like war movies would often and the things that for me what makes a good war movie is like really good like emotional acting as well as like if it's the kind of thing where like if I could really like understand like the struggle and get into the stories and the characters, it's the kind of thing it's like if I can understand struggle. And yeah, I thought that was done really well. The one shot technique was really like convincing. I really like how it kind of changed between like different kinds of shots while still looking like it was still done like in one tight take. Like, you know, I could think like of scenes where like even just the beginning, like basically from the beginning, from the scene where what's the name of the actor? I think it was a Colin. What's his name? Was it
I'll check it.
Colin Firth? I think it was Colin Firth. As soon as he assigns the mission to our two lead characters, I was pretty much invested in this movie. I mean, I'm sure we'll
yeah,
talk about more of the specifics as we go along. Because if I go from here, I think I'll just end up summing up like every single thing I liked about this movie. But it was really engaging, and
I think
I really like the film techniques in them.
yeah, and I feel like part of where that all stemmed from, like that ability to kind of like put yourself, and there was a way they managed to humanize everyone really in the film. There wasn't uh anyone who was like larger than life or anything like
Yeah.
that, which I think is pretty common in these kinds of movies, which is fine, you know. But I think that's part of what worked for it because we were all just people. Nobody was, you know, a savage. Nobody was, you know, evil. Nobody was anything. It was just a war, and this was what was happening, you know. And I think it really, really worked. You know, I'm just I'm finding it really hard to put into words.
Yeah, I get this too a lot with movies like this, but I think that
Mhm.
goes to show just how good of a movie it
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah.
so I don't know, should we talk about like, well, the scenes that like really like stuck to us the most?
Yeah, like I'm thinking since the chronological order always takes a long time, and this is a very simple premise, we might want to do it different. Like what immediately stuck out to you?
Um, gosh, that's hard.
I mean,
A
for
lot of
me,
stuff comes to mind at the same time, almost. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I was saying earlier, I mean, even just like when they were saying they're about to go and we come across this like field, I was even concerned, oh my God, are there going to be like, soldiers out to get them? And we just see them go across this field with like, all these like dead like something I also really liked about the movie is how it visually told the story. And you see them coming across this like field and there were like, of course, like, dead bodies in there. One scene
Mhm.
where I was like, the first scene where I was like, "Ugh, you got to get yourself going was there was like, what was it, like a camp, I think? There was like like the scene with the rat. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah,
The scene
Oh
with that?
yeah,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The
because like
tripwire, the
yeah, because
tripwire.
Yeah.
yeah,
Holy
but
man.
even before that, there was like there was a rat living inside a corpse while they were walking towards there.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Like there's a lot of like here's the thing, how I think it got away with not how I think it got away with not going to Hacksaw Ridge territory with the gore is that essentially it didn't show you a bunch of the gore that happened on screen, but more like all of the gore happening around it.
Yeah, I
Mm,
think that
Like
was the thing that
the
makes.
aftermath, the
yeah,
things that you don't even
Mm-hmm.
think about.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, because that was the thing that stuck to me with this movie is it's not like from my perspective, it's not like like a Saving Private Ryan thing where you actually see, like soldiers like like suffering in pain, and there's a lot of like dying and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's much of it takes place around them, and it's kind of more of like the sort of psychological kind of effect, I
It's
Yeah.
think.
especially well, that's that part of why that worked at all with keeping you in that mindset is that whole not cutting thing. It's like there is
Hmm.
never a moment where because it doesn't let you cut away from a scene,
Hmm.
you're always left with that feeling of like something is always not right, not quite right.
Yeah,
That
like
that
all.
sense of tension that you legitimately have, it's like, well, what's gonna happen next?
Hmm.
You know?
I was even kind of wondering throughout this movie. It kind of, I don't want to say like got me like paranoid, but it does kind of left me thinking of, I hope, somebody's not out there, and somebody's going to, attack them. That very ominous, like cautious sort of feeling I got.
Yeah, it leaves
Hmm.
you anticipating something.
And then
Hmm.
when they finally think like they read the plot, it's like okay, there's a bunch of traps here, but then oh god damn it, the giant ass rat they had to trip up the bomb. Now we have
Hmm.
to run.
Yeah, and what
Yeah,
made that, yeah, it was also made that scene. I was like, one of the characters is like covered in dust, and like and like the brother's like, trying to wake up, and it's like that film. Not only does it feel like I was concerned that whole like was gonna like they were gonna be caved in, but it's just like all this like kind of stuff going on was just it was like the first scene in the movie where I was like, oh, this is really dangerous. They need to get out. I think I was in my seat just thinking, you gotta go.
I'm gonna be honest. At that point, I was already thinking they were gonna start off the body count.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay,
I
here
mean
we
it
go,
was
guys.
I mean it wasn't that far to be fair.
Yeah, it wasn't, but it was definitely not like how we were expecting it to go on in that scene either. It was like,
But what happened after this is they rush through this empty encampment and they find out that the Germans have not only abandoned, but they pretty much disabled all artillery, so the British can't use it. So they walk through this like this beautiful field and this abandoned house, which is that this movie has a really what makes the whole one shot experience work is that you're never seeing one piece of scenery, and they never shoot everything like it's the same. Like there's a really good video by Every Frame of Painting that talks about the
oh,
Spielberg oneer,
Mm-hmm.
where the thing about one take usually is that it's more like what it's more about that whole tension, like oh, you're in this one spot and you're watching the shot keep on going and going. But what Spielberg liked to do is that you know his wonders were supposed to be invisible because all he's really doing is he's stitching together separate shots, but he's not cutting in between. He's just walking from one shot to the next, and so the whole thing is still storyboarded from the get go. It's just considering how it can transition from that one cut one frame to the next without having to use an editing cut.
Right.
But anyhow, this eventually leads to throughout that point, amidst our journey throughout, we learn a bit where the guy who's searching for a brother, he's a good guy. He's wanting to see his family again, but his other friend, the other character who just got dragged along with him, he's very distant. He almost doesn't want to go home. He just
Mm.
he just wants now no wants to stay here as long as possible, even if it means it could kill him. So that always comes to mind a bit, like oh, uh, how is this character gonna even continue from this pathway? But then we find out because they reach into one abandoned house, and this is one of the best the first big set piece moments when they find the milk farm, and then right from the distance they see a dogfight with three biplanes. One
Mm-hmm.
the German biplane gets shot down, but then right as they're looking past the hill, it just comes crashing right in front of them. They're in
Yeah,
a
I really liked how that it was built up. Like we're watching this, and then they actually do the thing where like we actually can see the dogfight take place like right between this like wooden wall. Like I thought that was a really like well done shot. And then so we see it, and then the German plane like comes down, like comes crashing down. But to continue.
and basically the poor goody two shoes thought it was a good idea to try pulling him out of the
To
plane.
rescue the guy.
And what ends up happening is while his friend is getting him out of the water, goody two shoes gets stabbed in the gut. And
Yeah.
so he just slowly dies, and now his brother's message with of both his photo and his dog tag are all he has left, and now he needs to continue the rest of the journey by foot, and that ends up being the start of his arc, the start of him uh, um, taking more responsibility in this war.
Yeah.
Not saying as a like a passive character, because they both start off just resting by a tree side, not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But now, for the sake of his friend, and thankfully a battalion comes to essentially uh, cut some of his travel time along the way, with Mark Strong as the new person who's supposed to be his checkpoint. Which, by the way, that gets into a key detail. I I basically described this in my letterbox review is it is the greatest video game movie ever made. Pretty much every time they come across a very famous British actor like Colin Firth, Mark Strong, and someone else who's going to show up, that pretty much is his checkpoint in a video game. Like, okay, now the tension is kind of laid down. Now he can relax for a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
could
didn't
definitely
like
see
that.
that. And by the way, Gabby, I wanted to ask you about that scene where the character exists because I remember you were actually like weeping when we saw like it like together in IMAX. Like,
Oh,
It's a very effective scene.
yeah.
It just
I think it was the scene where we see the brother, get, just slowly leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
because
I don't know.
it's not a fast death. Like you can see
No,
him
No, I
slowly
think
begin
that's the
to
no,
thing.
fail.
that was another aspect that really got to me. I remember, uh, I think it was No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
We got to watch that in our high school film studies class, and this was one point that they made how this was one of the few like Western films where they didn't do the whole boom boom shot dead kind of thing, and seeing that done in a war movie just has so much of a stronger impact because of the circumstances of all of it, and then in this particular scene, I don't know, I could kind of see myself being that same kind of person where it's like, hey, they're still a person, we still need to help them. And then having that happen, it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
you asshole. Like, I
Yeah.
felt that right here. Like, this guy was trying to save you, and you decided to do that shit. Like,
What I like in between that journey though is right in the middle of his morning. It's like some of the other troops are trying to rip at him. It's like, why, why the long face? As it just lingers on his face of him dealing with what
yeah,
happened.
Yeah, you could
But
see
when they
that
reach
like
that,
on his face. Yeah.
when he
it,
reaches that mud pit where the transportation is just clogged, he's one of the ones who like he still remembers that he's got a job to do for him, that he just rushes out and tries to push it over, and we get to that scene where he's pushing it with the rest of the troops,
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he gets everyone else to
and it's
get
his like
on.
inspiration boost right there. It's like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I can do
Good
this, I
point.
can do anything. And even
Yeah.
the rest of his his fellow troops at that moment believe in him as well. They even give him some of their booze. Great.
Heck yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like,
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah, that actually kind of brings attention going back to one of the things they did with the one shot technique is that outside of like so like after they're pushing the truck, they actually like get back in, and we see from like the inside of the truck when they get to basically like not to bring up the video game example, but it's like they get to like the next like location of the movie, like up like basically from there we go from there, and then that leads up to the sniper scene.
Oh yeah, because he's crawling down. Bobby,
What?
you're a bit flickery.
I am.
Oh yeah, your footage is like yeah, choppy.
Is it still flickery?
Yeah, you're very choppy. It looks like you're stop motion animated.
It is. Oh
Okay,
boy.
now it's getting better. It's getting
Okay.
better.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so he leaves. He's walking down like just this beautifully intricately put together video game level where it's like he has to crawl, and it's bad enough that he's in this situation, but he has to crawl with like this flowing river, and he's just trying to balance himself against the railing. Like if he wasn't careful, he would just fall over. But no, he just manages to climb across, and all of a sudden, shots fire. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, he has to
Yeah.
hurry it up on this place where he could easily fall, but he has to think of like a different direction to go. And that's what I mean. Like it has a really good video game design sensibility. It has that idea of like one of the things a lot of Naughty Dog video games they get compared to like the cinematic experience, but what makes them particularly still okay as linear video games is they consider alternate pathways. Like it's all
Mm-hmm.
about like, oh, you thought you had to go there, but then this happened. You need to think quick. You need to think about where to go. You know exactly where to go, but it's not through here. What do? He crawls by the edge. He uses the railing as a shield. And then, right as he's about to get shot again, he drops down. He ducks. He goes underneath the passage, makes sure that he's not getting shot, and just crawls through that stairway. And it's just such a well put together sequence where he's just finding cover and just finding just the right shot when to fire back. Then because it doesn't cut back, you're not really sure if he got him or not, but he's still going. He's got to take that chance. Just walk through slowly through there,
Mm-hmm.
and then when he goes up the stairs and opens the door, he gets shot in the head, but it gets his helmet, so it only knocks him down, just
Mm-hmm.
enough for him to shoot back, and that's where the one shot cuts for just that moment because he's knocked out. And it's just the perfect way to just release the tension, where like all of the tension has been released at that moment. You're gonna have this little resting point, which that's another thing I'm really glad about is that there's always these bursts of tension, but it's so well paced. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not just a barrage to your senses like some other horror movies can get. It's very timed.
Yes. Yeah, that's the word, timed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And wow. So yeah, to which leads us to probably honestly, I would say my favorite like scene in this movie was what actually came next. Like just like again more on the technique side. Like I liked how the next scene like used a lot of light, especially like a lot of like silhouette and kind of backlighting. We see that he ends up in, I think it looks like a destroyed town, I think,
It's a destroyed
Um,
church area,
or a
yeah,
church area. Yes.
on fire. But here's the thing is, that scene is also my mom's favorite because we
Hmm.
went to see it with my whole family. I bought them tickets to see it later again. That was the scene that really stuck out to her. Just the use of silhouette, and when you actually look it up, what they had to do to get that look is flat out insane. They essentially built miniatures with little sparklers they used to measure how much realistically their light would go if they actually had to repeat that in a big scale.
Very well planned.
Yeah, and actually that's a real another part of why the one shot works at all is that they like we often hear this discussion with a lot of blockbusters, like too much soundstage, too much green, too much CG. There is something just incredible about the set design here, where they just based off of those storyboards, like we need to get from here to here, and with this amount of lighting, they have to then build the whole set to actually fit that. Another reason why I compare it to level design, they are legit building entire giant levels for these actors to role play through, walking from place to place. So that whole section, especially that whole cathedral area, it's pretty much they have to measure the distance from like how far is it to walk from here to here, from like the very first shot with the trenches all the way to that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere out there, while this thing was while the construction was still there, you could probably have just seen how far it was from level one to there, and just that stuff like that actually just blows my mind.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't even think of how much went into the set design. You just kind of think it's there, you know? It's like, wow.
Yeah, and it's still done in a convincing fashion, basically.
But yeah, you were going on how like this your favorite scene is like it's him alone in between the shadows, and he is being chased by gunfire throughout the whole thing. So he's
Yes.
using the shadows to mask him. It's
Mm-hmm.
very Metal Gear Solid in that way.
Well, I don't know if it gave me like Metal Gear Solid vibes. I just thought that it was a really, really good way of using like shadows and lighting. I thought.
Because there's always that feeling that is he really hit it or not,
Mm-hmm.
especially when the shadows are constantly moving.
Yeah. Did you have anything to say, Gabby?
Uh, gosh. Regarding that specific scene, um, I don't know. I think you guys covered it particularly well.
Yeah, I think so too.
I will say the moment where it suddenly spikes up again. It's the scene where he can see someone else in the distance, but the flames and are just covering who he is. So
Mm-hmm.
neither of them know if they're an ally or not until whoever it is fires the first shot.
Mm,
I see. Yeah, because I was kind of wondering, oh, who's that in the distance? Is that like one of his out? And then when the person starts shooting, I was like, oh,
Oh
got it
shit!
one, go, oh, get out of here.
and as far as that part, I was just kind of already like, oh, nope, don't get near that guy. Nope.
Mm. Oh wow.
Oh,
I'm like, nope. That
I
guy
don't know.
getting shot.
I don't know. I guess at that point I was just with him. It's like I'm just hoping at this point anyone is a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna expect anyone to be a friend.
Yikes. Like at least not until like basically the ending when he finally does get to this group of soldiers where he has to give the message.
Yeah.
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 But uh, but by the peak of that, like he's already being chased. So there's only one option. He has to just dive underground and hope he doesn't get caught.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty much his next resting spot for a bit. And he sees just a hiding woman underneath
Mm-hmm.
with a baby, and pretty much all of the supplies he collected, like uh, another chapter where it's almost like a video game. Like this is the NPC. He's collected all these items, but he hasn't used them, and it's for this moment. Like
Mm-hmm.
he knows where he needs to go next to this girl, but in the meantime, he has this one moment where he's trying to just give her all this food that he's collected because he doesn't need it anymore. But what the baby really needs is milk. And interestingly enough, he can actually speak the language of what she's saying because it's not English.
Yeah, it's French.
Yeah, but he knows. Those this little subtle moment, like oh no, what the baby needs is actually milk. But thank God he actually did collect that milk a bit more.
Yes, I thought
Yes,
that was
the
clever.
foreshadowing, the foreshadowing. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, as soon
Oh
as they started,
God,
as soon as she was like, "Oh, but the baby needs milk," and it was like, milk. I was like, "Of course." Yeah, so I thought that was really awesome.
once I saw, like, once I got to that part, like before they started talking about the baby, I'm like, that's why he picked up the milk. That's why they
Mm,
had him do that.
yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm not exactly the best when it comes to detecting like foreshadowing, but like I thought it was like I guess you could tell it was kind of clever. It's like, oh, they finally came across milk in that earlier scene because, like, as a form of, well, he's
Yeah,
hungry. But then, go on, Gabby.
cause for me, when we went back to that scene and we were looking at him like picking up that milk, I'm like, why is he going to carry that with him? That can't last very long.
But it is a
Mm,
whole day. It is a whole day.
Yeah, yeah, like a whole day maybe, but like that much milk for him, like what? And it's like, I see what you did there.
mm, good, yeah, yeah, good catch, Gabby.
I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
I mean, it could have just been me too, also being like, what the heck? But yeah, I kind of felt there was going to be something particular about that. They were kind of giving that a bit more attention than one would anticipate when we got to that point. That I'm like, this has to come back into play somewhere.
But then it probably leads to, well, what we can only describe as the tearjerker moment where he's just like, can I, maybe, yeah, maybe you could help him sleep. So he tells him a little story. Gives the baby a little lullaby in specifically his what he assumes is their language. And
Hmm.
there's a little moment where it's like we've all we've heard is that he doesn't want to go home for
Hmm.
whatever reason. But in this one moment, it feels like there is something in him that is has the capacity to be a caretaker. He's acting like a dad right now.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what could it be? And I'm just thinking, well, yeah, even if for a fraction of a moment, did you think he was gonna stop right there for just even a bit?
I kind of
Actually,
figured he was going to have to keep moving, even if
mm,
he wanted to stay.
yeah, I think for me it was more a matter of like, oh, I wish you like you could stay for say even like the woman herself was like saying, you should stay. But at the same time, he's got, a mission to complete. And you know
Not
what's
to
the
mention that
weird
there was.
thing? The weird thing was like I didn't like suspect. I mean, I think this might be a good sign of good pacing. Like I was wondering how much, does he still have a ways to go? Like I was concerned that like he might still, have a lot to travel through. So it was that kind of thing.
And the other thing for me was like, okay, let's say that the lady has the possibility of being left alone if it's just her and the baby, right?
Hmm.
Now imagine if they found her and there was some soldier from from the the enemy side
Hmm.
with them. That would spell out death.
Mm,
So I was like, no, he can't stay.
no. Yeah, and it's obviously way too dangerous to like take her and the baby along.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. I
Well,
felt like I had a thought, but now I can't remember what it was.
Hmm.
in the meantime,
Oh,
he goes on the way, and he has to sneak around again long enough to actually kill someone in the shadows, and just have to keep on running while being shot. And this is the part where I just I know I keep on bringing up video games, but this is when it felt like Uncharted. Is when he just jumps off into the river and just dives.
Yeah. Like, and you know what's the weird thing about that scene is like I was thinking, whoa, that's a long jump. Like, are you gonna like I was worried, are you gonna like hit the ground? But I was like, oh, he hits water. So I thought that was, it's well shot because it's like shot in a way where it's like you mainly like see like he's like on like the right side of the frame. They don't show what he's going to land on. So like when I
Oh
saw
yeah.
that, I was like, what is he doing? And it's like, oh, he jumps in the water.
oh my gosh. I I do remember what I was going to say now, but it's backtracking a bit. I don't know if you guys want to hear
Go
it.
go ahead, Gabby.
Okay, as far as like how we keep going to the why does the main character not want to go back home? What I took from that particularly was I know I have a vague idea that there's this thing for certain people who've experienced, war and whatnot, where once they're sent back home, they can't assimilate back into civilian life.
Ooh, yeah.
Just partially because of like PTSD and whatnot, that they can't fathom the possibility of being safe because they're just so used to constantly having to keep an eye out, listen to what's going on, make sure that nothing's gonna like attack or anything like that. So that's what I thought that whole thing was about. But I don't know if I misread it or anything. Just go
Yeah,
ahead.
but yeah, I think that it does make sense.
No, okay. Yeah. Sorry about that sidetrack, but
No, it's okay. It's fine. But so continuing on,
yes.
and probably like I remember, I think this might have been one of your favorite scenes, Stephen. Like when we finally get there.
Oh yeah, he actually managed to swim back up and crawls on a bunch of bloated body. Ooh, that was nasty.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
remember that. That
ew,
was
that's
nasty.
nasty.
And then I loved how from that we hear off in the distance this like
Somebody singing.
ghostly voice, and I
Oh yeah,
was just like,
like
oh my
like
god.
like you all it's like here's the thing. The burning church setting, like the way it's shot, the way it's lit, it almost it feels hellish, and right at that moment, like it is serene looking enough to make you wonder if he even actually alive. Like he just
Yeah,
hears in
Mm,
like
yeah.
this angelic voice, and then he just keeps on walking through this forest, and he just sees a bunch of soldiers, and he's not even sure where he's at, but he just has to sit down. He has to hear it, and that whole sequence, just the atmosphere, like just again, just this movie knows when to just release the tension and just focus on something serene looking.
And
yeah,
and
That
and
whole
this
sequence,
and despite that, like taking in what was going on, seeing that this was all a group of people taking in the last moments where they may not be at peace for a long time,
mm-hmm.
like they were just about to go into practically hell, and who knows if they were going to go back.
Yeah, that's what I
And
got
you
at that
just
too.
appreciate that moment. You're like,
and just the choice of the song too. It just
yeah,
like going back to
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, even like the way it's shot, it's like when we first start hearing, we just very like start hearing the singing, and it gradually gets louder, and the camera's moving, and you see it starts like going around and like filming all the soldiers, and then it kind of stops on our lead character, like back in the center of the frame. I thought that was also really nice.
oh yeah, I'm looking at the lyrics like right over here. No, it's a lot of just them talking. Um, it's a lot of just calling back to imagery of what it's like to go back home, but at the same time, they're singing the song. They're hearing the song right when they're likely gonna be headed to their death,
Mm-hmm.
and
yeah.
so this is like their last reminder of what it's like if they don't make it.
And I mean, this isn't the first time that kind of stuff was played off of, as far as like picking out a song and its lyrics. But the way they did it here was just so mesmerizing. It just, I don't know, I can't explain it has a strong impact. Like,
Mm-hmm.
But
wow.
I but I like how it's like throughout it, like just like with that. just like with when his friend just when the brother died, just like when he's coming off of that vehicle to push it forward, just like when he meeting with the baby, and finally just here, there's always that wake up call, like, okay, let me just rest for a moment. I know for just this one small moment, I just need a reminder of where I need to go. And, like, there's always that wake up call at his most relaxed moment
Hmm.
of where he has to go. And in this case, it was, oh, the company you're looking for, we're part of them. They're over there, and it's like, oh shit, what time is it?
Mm.
What time is it?
Oh yeah,
And
and that's when he just.
and what proceed was pretty much every time I've seen this movie. Once it gets to this scene, I'm like, usually I'm feeling like this right when it's around here when he's on his chase, I immediately start curving back to
Oh
Oh
no,
yes, it's such a tense scene.
I
Yes.
like he has to
felt the
walk over
tension in my chest in that part. I was
like
just
Hmm.
like, oh my
Yeah, this
like
is like
because you see the amount of people in the background, they're blocking his way with
god.
how
Some
many.
people are
yeah,
telling him, where the hell are you going? You know?
and like they don't believe him. It's like yeah, so it's just like it just adds to tension. It's like they're not listening to him.
And if he uh, wanted to stay safe, he he would have to wait through it as everyone died. But just because he knows like one of these might be that guy's brother, or I promised him my deathbed that he no, which wasn't even a deathbed, it was just some grat that
Hmm.
I would get this message across. So what does he do? He as everyone is marching to the battleground, he walks out of the trenches, and as just artillery just
Yeah,
firing,
just
just
like
barely missing him.
explosions and that scene in the trailers with when the name of the movie comes in. That is that scene where he's running through the trenches trying to tell
Yeah.
this colonel that you have to stop or else everybody's going to get killed.
The, like what I'm looking back at what I said in my review, like that climax where George McKay runs unarmed through cannon fire harder than Tom Cruise has been just as inspired is when Captain America grabbed Mjolnir in Endgame to assemble the Avengers. That scene was just everything I could ask for in like a packed theater.
Hmm.
Gosh, yeah.
In an IMAX theater, no less.
Oh yeah, like just knowing that everything on there, like especially since they had to get through all of those explosions practically, they can't clean up that often. So they really need to nail those takes.
Hmm.
So they made sure like it lasted as long as it could, and you're just for like 1, 2, 3 minutes, it just keeps lasting, and by the time he manages to get there and meet who else? Benedict
Benedict
Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch, yes, plays Colonel Mackenzie.
Yep.
It's so like
Oh,
I don't know if they're just really good actors, but it didn't occur to me that is Benedict Cumberbatch. I remember when we were watching Gabby, you were like, "Is that?" And so it's like, but when he started talking, and it's not that I didn't buy him as a character. It's just like I recognize that, oh, it's Benedict Cumberbatch, like from his voice.
I just noticed his face as soon as he came into the camera. I'm like, it's better than Cumberbatch.
But
But apart from that, I remember like this whole time you're just like your heart's just like
Yes,
you
yes.
know you're right there with him. You're running. You're like, is he gonna make it? Is he gonna make it? Is he gonna make it?
and
Hmm.
and
He
and,
gets to him,
and it
and
doesn't
then
even
you're
mention like is he
waiting.
gonna
You're
believe him?
waiting. Yeah, you're waiting. You're like, come on, please tell me. You know, and all of a sudden, off in the distance, you hear ceasefire, and it's just like,
But then
That was the part of the movie where I just started. I was like, I don't even know. Like, it's hard for me to explain. Like, maybe I was just concerned that like so many are going to die, and it's just like I was just so relieved at that point.
yeah,
yeah,
That
but
at
yeah,
that point.
that relief doesn't last long because even
mm,
at that point, Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't say it's like, oh no, oh thank you, you saved us. No, he thinks you saved these people for now, but that's not how wars end. These people are probably gonna die tomorrow.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cause it ends only one way, one last man standing. So instead of lingering on that, and he does get a congratulations from one again, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately he goes back to his original goal. Is his brother there? And
Yeah.
up until we even meet him, we're not sure because it keeps on circling through reminders of what it's like. There's injured bodies, like
Yes.
dead corpses of dying people right around nursing beds with not enough nurses. You can see bodies come up over and over. So you keep
Mm-hmm.
on working. Oh, is it him? Is it him? Is it him? Is it that guy who's missing his arm? Is it that guy bleeding on his bed? Who is it?
Mm,
And it
Yeah.
turned out to be one of the medics.
mm.
Yeah, I was relieved at that part. I'm like, please don't tell me
Yeah,
he's in
like
bed somewhere.
yeah, I did get this feeling of like I'm sure we'll find it, but I was really concerned of the possibility that he could be, dead. Like, and again, like I really like how visually told the story. Like we see the camera moving across, showing all these injured soldiers, and then we see our lead character come back, and he's calling the brother's name. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm getting feels just going back over this whole film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and so I think I'll let you take charge of this, Bobby.
What?
When 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 he finally actually meets the brother, like that scene, how did it come at you?
Like, I mean, I was relieved that, like, oh, the brother is okay, but of course our lead character has to, like, break the bad news his that the that his brother unfortunately didn't make it along the way. But I think it's best if you explain it, Stephen, because I'm trying to get around to explaining what's going on.
Okay, but what I really like is that instead of acting like just voicing out his anger, much like most men do in these kind of situations, he tries to repress it. It's like, okay, thank you for telling me this news.
Yeah.
Uh, if not, I'm pretty sure you're hungry. There's stuff in the mess hall. You can get over there. But what ultimately get like make, makes him break down is when he actually hands him his dog tag and the photo, and even when he requests like, "Can I write to your mother?" And it's
Oh,
really hard not to keep your tear ducts closed around that whole scene. Like, I often kind of it's hard to actually connect with emotional scenes when they cry right away.
Hmm.
It's always more powerful for me when it feels like they are trying to hold it back. Like, because we can tell when someone's trying to hold back tears.
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, and then, I don't know, there's this whole, I guess for me, it goes all the way around this whole idea of masculinity where it's like, be a man, you don't cry if you're a man. You're like, God damn it, man, how are
Hmm.
you not? Like, Jesus Christ. And it's moments like that where you're like, come on, man, who the hell cares? Just let it out, man.
Yeah,
And,
I
you
mean,
see
it's
that
really
person just
hard
trying to
not
react.
to in this
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
But I could definitely see, the connection there. Meanwhile, me, I'm like a crybaby, so I think that was one of various moments where I'm like, I was just like,
Yeah, like even up until like the very end of this movie.
yeah, oh,
Oh, I guess we'll move on to the last shot where
Hmm.
he's going back, it mirrors the very first shot where
Yeah.
he shows you resting at the tree. He finds that tree by the sunset, and when he takes a rest, he takes out a locket that he's been hiding and opens it, and it's a photo of a woman, and behind it it says "Just come home."
Mm.
And I think essentially what his arc has been throughout out is we don't know exactly the reason why he wants to leave. He wanted to leave, wanted to stay away, but regardless, he's ready to bear responsibility now.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I guess how I took it was, okay, so through this whole thing, um, dealing with the whole thing of like I'm not gonna fit in anymore. This isn't going to feel normal for me at this point. And this is life for me. This is all I know. I can't use to anything like that. And then realizing how much of an impact this kind of stuff has on other people once you're gone. It's kind of that wake up call is like, if you have to go through hell just to assimilate again or just to be okay, that's one thing. But not being there is something that, it's just, that can't be changed.
Hmm.
And I think that was kind of like where our protagonist kind of gets that realization of like, maybe it's better that they at least have memories with me, even though I'm not always at my 100%. You know, it's like
It,
better that than being here actually in danger. But
I thought it was more that he was trying to run away from forming a family. We don't get
and I think yeah, that could be it too.
because like that's what I felt was the big thing about the whole baby scene is that he has the potential to be a good father, but he's obviously not taking part in it at home. He
Mm.
Mm,
doesn't even mention having a
hmm.
child.
Yeah, and yeah, and then kind of like knowing that you're in that position that any day something can happen to you, and then you just you know I guess maybe you feel like what, might as well not even get attached or let them get attached to me, maybe. And the fear of like what, there's, I don't know, there's so many ways you can take this.
But here's the interesting thing: the reason why is because like ultimately it's a very cliched motivation. It's the it's the soldier with the wife and child who is likely
Mm-hmm.
gonna die. But
Hmm.
the fact that they not only didn't kill the guy with the wife with with that past connection, but that they not only keep it secret till the end, that they don't have to explain everything because we already know that situation.
Yeah, like
Mm.
there's already so much to go off of. Like here, me, I was going off of this whole tangent, and that's just before we even know anything. Like eh, there's just so much to it. It's one of the situations where it's an amalgamation of different situations and different trains of thought just meshing together into one big ball of who knows what.
Hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the movie. It's 1917, highly recommended. I mean, I've
10 out of
really
10.
been, I personally am the person, I really do want to like start checking out more of these movies for this YouTube channel. As much as it is fun to talk about animation and video games a lot, this is something that whenever I see these movies, I'm really glad I get to see films like this. So, yeah.
Fun fact: we've been talking all this praise about this movie that was nominated,
Hmm.
and we haven't even talked about my actual number one that actually did win. So tune
Yes.
in next time we're gonna be talking about Parasite.
Yes,
Parasite,
I mentioned on Twitter. You two
yeah.
seem to like it. I've been meaning to. It's just that I've had a lot of movies on my schedule to get through. But Parasite should be the next one. Yeah. So yeah, well, so definitely, so 1917, we definitely really enjoyed this movie. We'll get to Parasite pretty soon. So until next time, and let us know your thoughts down below. I forgot to bring this up in the Star Wars review we just did. Let us know your thoughts on both Rise of Skywalker and 1917. I don't get to talk about these movies as often as honestly I would like. So I'm very curious to hear what you all have to say. So until next time, this has been Bloodman Bobby, Gabby, and Steven. And until next time, we'll see you all later. Bye.
Bye.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel to see more of my videos and ring the bell to be notified about my latest uploads. Don't forget to follow me on social media for my latest opinions and video updates. I hope to see you next time.